A couple in Melbourne bought a rundown weatherboard in a high-growth suburb. They renovated it, new kitchen, new bathroom, landscaping, the works. 11 months later, they sold it for 400,000 profit. Sounds great, and it was. But that's only because they expected to pay capital gains tax on 200,000, meaning the 50% CGT discount would halve the taxable amount. Pretty straightforward. Except their tax bill was double what they have expected. And then there was a GST bill on top. They didn't do anything illegal, but the ATO classified their activity as a business, not an investment. So if you have ever renovated a property and sold it, or if you are planning to, there is a risk the ATO sees you the same way. And most people don't find out until they have already settled. I'm a tax accountant. Over the past 5 years, we have worked with more than 1,500 property investors, and I sit across from people in the exact situation constantly, sometimes after the money is already gone. In this video, I'm going to walk you through three things. The three buckets that ATO uses to classify your property activity, the main reasons exemption trap that catches almost everyone, and the one mechanism that could have saved this couple over $90,000. Bucket 1 is a genuine investor. You buy, hold, and eventually sell. That's the capital account. You may get 50% CGT discount and there is no GST. Bucket 2 is what catches most people. A one-off profit-making transaction. You might only do it once, but if your intent was to buy, renovate, and sell for profit, the ATO can treat that as revenue. No CGT discount and GST may apply. And then there is a bucket 3. This is where you are effectively running a property business. Multiple projects, system, reputation. At that point, you are not an investor at all. You are a developer in the eyes of the ATO. Full income tax, full GST, no concessions. Now let me take you through exactly what happened to the couple, because the detail is where it matters. The client came to us after purchasing a worn-out property in a high-growth suburb. His plan, in his own words, was renovate and see what happens. As I said earlier, he sold 11 months later for 400,000 profit. He assumed he would pay CGT on 200,000, meaning the 50% discount would halve the taxable amount. He would pay tax on what was left and walk away with a healthy return. That assumption cost him more than the renovation did. Here is what actually happened. The ATO reviews the transaction, applied what is called Meyer Emporium test. Essentially, they were asking if there was a profit-making purpose at the outset. The answer was yes. That single finding moved him from what I called bucket 1, a passive investor on a capital account, into bucket 2, isolated profit-making undertaking on revenue account. The moment that happened, the 50% CGT discount vanished. The full 400,000 was taxed as an ordinary income at his marginal rate, 45 cents on a dollar, plus the 2% Medicare levy. But here is where it gets worse. Because the ATO classified this activity as an enterprise for GST purposes and his turnover exceeded 75,000, he was liable for GST on the sale. He had never registered. On a 1.5 million sale, that is 1/11th of the total sale price, approximately 136,000. Let me put that in perspective. He thought he was looking at roughly 94,000 in tax and his actual liability was north of 320K. He thought he was an investor, but from the ATO's view, he was running a business. And the difference between those two words was a 6-figure tax bill. Now, a lot of people hear that story and think, he held it for less than 12 months, and that's a problem. I will just hold mine longer. And that's the most common assumption I hear, and it's wrong. Let me introduce you to Daniel. Daniel is a tradie in Western Sydney. He bought a 3-bedroom fibro house, did most of the reno himself, new kitchen, new bathroom, knocked out the wall, and added a deck out the back. He sold it 14 months later for a solid profit. After holding it for over 12 months, Daniel figured that 50% CGT discount was locked in. But here's the thing. Holding period is not the test. If the property was acquired with a primary intention of resale at the profit, it's held on revenue account, meaning the 12-month rule is legally irrelevant. The ATO decides your bucket based on evidence, and the first thing they look at was something Daniel had completely forgotten about. When Daniel applied for a loan, he told the bank the property was for renovation and resale. That language got him better leverage. But when ATO came asking, he told them it was for long-term investment. ATO reviewed the bank records. His loan application said one thing, his tax return said another thing. That single document was enough. On top of that, Daniel had lodged a development application with the council for the structural work that moved his renovation from cosmetics, painting, carpet, minor repairs into substantial renovation territory under the GST Act. Cosmetic refreshing might align with investment, but structural changes, DAs, knocking out walls, that's enterprise activity. And here is what makes this even worse for anyone who has done it more than once. In February 2026, the Administrative Review Tribunal handed down a decision that provides further guidance on when property activities may consider an enterprise. The taxpayer in that case completed 3 flips over 4 years. They worked full-time in a completely unrelated field, but the tribunal still classed them as carrying on an enterprise. Daniel only did it once, but that didn't matter. The ATO doesn't need a pattern. They need an evidence of intent, and your loan application is Exhibit A. If you're finding this useful, subscribe. I break down Australian tax strategy like this every week, and most of what I cover is crucial information you might not even know. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah is a project manager in Melbourne. She bought a dated unit in the inner east suburbs, moved in during the renovation, lived there for about 5 months, and then sold. Her logic was simple. If it is my main residence, the profit is tax-free under the main residence exemption. She heard it from a friend, she read it online, and it made sense. But this is why this is the most dangerous assumption in Australian property, and the one I hear more than any other. If you are banking on a main residence exemption and the ATO decides the property was trading stock from day one, the assumption doesn't shrink. It disappears entirely. ATO started looking at what they call the quality of occupancy. Sarah had moved in technically, but her mail still went to her old address. She never updated the electoral roll. The unit was partially furnished, a mattress, a microwave, not much else. She was sleeping there, but wasn't living there, and the ATO can tell the difference. They applied the section 118-25 of the Income Tax Assessment Act. The principle is this: if the property was never truly a capital asset, meaning it was trading stock from the moment you sign the contract, then the main residence exemption is legally unavailable. It doesn't matter how long you have lived in it. It doesn't matter that you have changed the locks or moved in your clothes. The exemption was never on the table. Sarah's 5 months of sleeping there changed nothing. Moving into your flip doesn't protect you. The ATO doesn't care about where you slept. They care about what your intent was when you signed the contract. Let's go back to our first client, the one with the $1.5 million sale and the $136,000 of GST bill. Here is what makes that story worse. The bill didn't have to be anywhere near that high. There is a mechanism that could have cut his GST liability by more than $90,000. But it only works if you set it up before settlement. Miss the window and you are locked into full GST on the total sale price. It's called the margin scheme, Division 75 of the GST Act, and it's the most powerful tool a property flipper has. Here is how it works. Under the standard GST, you pay 1/11th of the total sale price. Under the margin scheme, you pay 1/11th of the margin, meaning the difference between your purchase price and your sale price. Let me give you the numbers. The property bought for $1 million, sold it for $1.5 million. Standard GST, $136,363. Under the margin scheme, $45,454. That's the $90,909 savings on one transaction. You can generally use the margin scheme if you bought the property from someone who wasn't registered for GST, a private homeowner, for example. That covers most residential purchases. But here is the catch. You need a written agreement with the purchaser to use the margin scheme, and that agreement must be in place at or before the time of settlement, not after, not when your accountant tells you about it 3 months later, or before settlement. The client didn't have the agreement. He didn't know the margin scheme existed. By the time he sat in our office, the window had closed. The $90,000 saving was gone. The margin scheme doesn't stop you from being classified as a business. It doesn't change your income tax position. But if you are in the bucket, and after watching this video, you should have a pretty clear idea of whether you are, it's the single biggest lever you have to reduce your GST liability. And it only works if you know about it before you sign. Here is what I need you to take away from this video. Your tax bill is decided on the day you sign the purchase contract, not the day you sell the house. If you haven't documented your investment intent before the ink is dry, the ATO will document your profit intent for you. If you're mid-renovation right now, or you are about to sign a contract, on a property you are planning to flip, get the desk risk assessment done before you settle, not after. That's what a first call with our team looks like. We review your loan documents, your financial history, and your GST status. We figure out whether your activity has already crossed the enterprise threshold. We give you a plain text risk rating. You know exactly where you stand and how much cash to set aside from the sale. The link is in the description. Book the call before you sign the contract.